there, everybody. Welcome back to another segment of Weather and the Bible. To show you today's forecast and just how extreme it is, we are going to join Jaime on scene with today's forecast. Hold on tight. Are you ready? Here we go.
Hey everybody, we have some extreme wind that is coming out of the east today for our forecast. You will see it is just sweeping across the plains, and hey, hold on tight because nothing is going to be standing still after this weather, because this wind is just going to knock people right off their feet. Holy smokes, this is a breeze.
My goodness, I am so glad that you safely made it back into the studio, because let me tell you, I can't even imagine that wind that was blowing, and you didn't, I mean, wow, you didn't go away with it.
No, that was a wind like I have never experienced before.
Wow, that was
quite the breeze.
All right, so anyways, we're talking wind today, right? Wind in the Bible. And today's wind example in the Bible is just as extreme as the on-site forecast that you gave, because we're still dealing with Pharaoh, the Egyptians, and the Israelites.
Yeah.
What are we talking about, Jaime?
So today's weather in the Bible comes from Exodus. We're still in Exodus, chapter 17. Chapter 14. And starting at roughly verse 21.
The wind must have blown your pages
blew
all the way outside.
That's what I get for taking my Bible with me on location. At chapter 14, verse 21, it says, "Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night the Lord drove the sea back with a strong east wind and turned it into dry land. The waters were divided, and the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground, with a wall of water on their right and a one on their left. The Egyptians pursued them, and the Pharaoh's horses and chariots and horsemen followed them into the sea. During the last watch of the night, the Lord looked down from the pillar of fire and the cloud at the Egyptian army and threw it into confusion. He made the wheels of their chariots come off so that they had difficulty driving. And the Israelites said, 'Let's get away from the Israelites. The Lord is fighting for them against Egypt.' And then the Lord said to Moses, 'Stretch out your hand over the sea so that the waters may flow back over the Egyptian and their chariots and horsemen.' Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and at daybreak, the sea went back into place."
All right. So many things to unpack in here. First of all, as kids growing up, learning these very basic, like, you need to know Bible stories. I mean, let me tell you, they're all our Sunday school stories. You kind of just understand, as the story is read to you, that the waters split, they went in, the army followed, they closed, they were safe. But after reading just that little bit in the Bible, I mean, you see so many things come into play. Once again, you see God taking care of his people. Once again, you see Pharaoh not taking the 10 plagues as a sign to release God's people. He needed more. And now God has sent this great and mighty wind, even mightier than what you were just experiencing outside, because this one totally split the Red Sea.
Yeah, so this is the thing that people will try to say, like, oh, it was just a wind, it was a fluke thing, the wind made the waters cease. And nobody's denying that. The Bible says right here that God used a mighty wind to drive the sea in half so that there was a wall of water to the right and a wall of water to the left. But the thing is that even God was able to make a path of dry land. The Bible says right here, dry land, for the Israelites to cross against. They weren't trying to mess with the mud and the muck. So this was not a quick thing. God had it set. It talks about that he worked all through the night to get this to go so that the Israelites had a safe escape plan. And God used the weather to make it happen.
Well, yeah, because the Israelites come to this body of water and go, oh no, the Egyptian army is coming right behind us. And God's going, I got this. But also Pharaoh hopefully now learns his lesson, right? Because now his entire Egyptian army is washed away in the Red Sea, because as soon as God's people walk through to safety, to freedom, God causes the wind to stop and the waters to rush back over and back into place.
Which just goes to show, too, that this was not a small trickle of a creek that some people will try to say, that it's just a small body of water. If it was enough to drown armies and horses and men, then God was using some mighty force here.
And still taking care of his people, as he always does. This time he just used the great and mighty wind in order to do it.
Yeah.
Enough so that after the water split, they walked across dry land. I mean, can you imagine the wind that you'd have to experience to just walk across on dry land after an entire sea was split in half? It's just crazy. But also it's a God thing.
Yep. And it's hard to explain God things.
But it's so fun to investigate and take a closer look at as we study the Bible a little bit more in depth. So, all right. Paradise ruined. Flood waters everywhere. 10 plagues.
Mighty winds.
Mighty, mighty, mighty winds. Jamie, got anything fun next week for weather?
It's not quite as dramatic. Not quite as weird. Well, it's still weird, but it's not going to be like, it's not as gross as bugs.
As gross as bugs, or as mighty as wind.
Or as mighty as wind.
Well, stay tuned next week and see what Jamie's forecast brings us on another edition of Weather in the Bible.